Okay, welcome back to my solo RPG adventure. I don't have a name for whatever this campaign is or anything like that. I think more than anything, this is just an experiment right now. This is me just dipping my toes into solo RPGs, figuring out how much I enjoy it, how to run things, how to do it, how to get enjoyment out of it, so on and so forth. Just figuring things out. So, I don't expect this to be like, oh, this is the big campaign that lasts, a year or something of weekly streams. And right now, yeah, I mean, I am looking at kind of weekly streams. This stream is only 2 days after the last one. But I wanted to get back into this pretty quickly here. And Durden expressed some interest in having the streams be on Thursdays. So I figured, all right, well, we'll just do this one and then we'll wait a week for the next one. All right, so to recap, we are playing Heroes of Adventure. I went over a lot of the basics of this specific system in the first stream, so you can check that out if you want to learn some of what the rules are and character creation and stuff like that. And we went through the process of making our character. His name is Garland, no last name. We'll get to that maybe someday if it matters. He's a human ranger, pretty basic, and he's agile. He's good at chatting. He can handle himself in the wilderness. He can handle himself with a bow and arrow, and he also has some totem magic available to him, just because I think it's very rare that I would ever make a character in any RPG that has magic that doesn't have access to magic. I just prefer it. When we started, I had the audience provide a suggestion of a starting situation to get thrown into. And Durden put us in a bar, drunk, and we had just knocked out some other guy over a debate about pronunciation, I believe. Basically a meaningless, pointless debate that I was too drunk to think rationally about. Thankfully, the guards that were sent after me were quite incompetent and perhaps had been drinking themselves, and I managed to escape into the night with no one the wiser. In the process, though, the sellsword that I had hired, and I think it was kind of funny. I hired them. I think I paid them, and I basically paid them to go drinking with me. So not very good with my money. But the sellsword that I had hired realized that this was not going to be good for his future, so he walked out on me. And, he fulfilled his arrangement. He got paid to go drink with me, and that's what he did. But my porter, Patrick, he's sticking with me, but he made me promise him that I'm not going to drink anymore. We'll see how truthful that is. So I spent 10 more silver to hire a new sellsword named Donovan, and Donovan he's going to stick with us. He's with us for the long haul. After that, I sought about getting a job, because we need money, we need work, we need adventure, all that good stuff. So we randomly rolled up a quest, and we kind of worked through it as far as like figuring out what it might entail and what the specifics might be, to a basic degree. And so that's what's written down here in the document, that our first job, we were hired by a Lord Bartholomew to delay a merchant named Kurthorn. Specifically, this merchant is planning to head back to the capital of Staunton with news about the upcoming wheat crop in the area. and he's going to report sort of this, there's going to be a cicada or, some sort of fantasy version of cicada. There's going to be a big spawning of that this year. And so it's really going to hurt wheat crops. I guess it's actually... Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to hurt, but it should raise the price of wheat. Whatever the case, Garland doesn't really care about the ramifications. It's just that Lord Bartholomew wants this guy to be delayed on his return trip a few days, 5 days, to give him time to move some money around, to try and profit off of this. Again, it doesn't really matter. If I was a DM and I had players, yes, I'd probably think the whole thing through, because, players tend to ask questions and they want to know answers. But for our purposes, it doesn't really matter. Here's the problem. Bartholomew is not going to pay anyone. He's promised 500 silver, but he's not going to pay anyone until 5 days' time, when it's confirmed that, Kurthorn was delayed. We need money today. We need money now. Because otherwise, I can't pay Donovan and Patrick to stick around, and I need them. I need them. I can't lose another person in my life. Not after Craig. So we need money today, and we have some options. Of course, there are many, many ways to make money in a fantasy role-playing game. Let's think about some options. One is crime, of course. Crime is always an option. Even if you're playing good characters, crime is still an option. You may turn against it, but it is an option. Unless you're playing... I don't know what sort of game you would be playing where crime is never an option. But there are plenty of games where it's not a good option. For our purposes, crime is a decent option if we want to go that route. I don't think Garland has any sort of real moral quibbles about stealing. I mean, we're not going to steal bread out of a peasant's mouth or something like that, probably. Unless we're starving, then yeah, maybe better me than him. But stealing from the rich, not much sympathy. Not much sympathy for the rich. So we could go and just steal from Kurthorn before or during delaying him. That's an option. Or we could go out on the road and, try and take over a caravan or something like that. Who knows what. So crime's an option. We could go back, see if there's any other job postings or quest postings, from a barkeeper that's heard some stuff, or from a public bulletin board, things like that. We could just find another quest. And hope that it's either in town or close by outside of town. We could try and maybe hear some rumors about like treasure or scores of some kind, some money to be made. Or we could just go out into the wilderness and try and find something of value, whether that be like a dungeon or... It always kind of amuses me to think about like the setting of a fantasy RPG. And there's just knowledge that, yeah, there's dungeons out there. They're all over the place, these old dungeons. And, people could go in there. And maybe they survive and find stuff. So, we could find a dungeon or a crypt or an old ruined temple or who knows what. Or we could find, like, a goblin camp or something. And maybe they have some sort of valuable. Or we find out... if there's any local wildlife that has like valuable body parts or body materials, like a griffin, and the griffin blood would pay quite a bit or something. I don't know. I'm just mentioning all potential options for ways to make money. Now, I do have a sellsword with me, and I'm handy with a bow, so it's not like we can't handle any combat. We just can't handle much combat. And I'm going to run combat and stats and all that as is. So I'm not going to fudge combat. So if we want to take on a werewolf or something, this is the stats of a werewolf. I'm not fucking around. Now, I don't want to take on a werewolf because they're immune to all non-silver weapons. And they have 30 health and 15 defense and damage resistance and all that. But I'm just saying, if we come across something, that's what its stats are. Velociraptors, you know. Or a vampire. I don't want to fuck with a vampire. So on and so forth. Even a unicorn. I guess maybe we could take down... I don't know. A D6, and it gets a D4 on its roll. Yeah, it could pretty easily one-shot Donovan. And then... I'm in rough shape. So I don't know. Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I guess I would rank, like, finding a monster out in the wild and hunting it down. I would rank that fairly low. I guess it kind of depends on, like... It sort of depends. Because it has to be something, you know, just thinking, like, narratively wise. It has to be something that... is not common. It's not like a cow or something. You're not going to hunt down cows or boars. You could hunt down boars, but that's not going to pay almost anything. So it has to be something that's kind of dangerous or rare. And I don't know how much of that we could really take on easily. Like, I could hunt down a Bigfoot, but that's tough. And I guess that's a good question. If I was sitting at a table with some people, I'm like, all right, you know, if we went down and hunted down a pack of wild boar and we managed to haul back, say, 4 boar carcasses, how much is that worth? I think that's kind of a good exercise as like as a DM, is evaluating the value, determining the value of, say, a boar carcass in a town such as this. What will a butcher pay for a boar? Now, this isn't modern day, so it's not like your meat has to be, like, properly sourced and stuff like that. I imagine that a butcher in a D&D sort of town will pay money for a local sourced boar. There is some rules for harvesting parts, but this is for, like, alchemy and crafting and stuff, whereas mostly what we'd be accumulating there is the meat. So then you go to, like, I don't know, food and lodging. So a meal costs 2 silver. And that's a prepared meal, and obviously that's more than just meat. So you start to think, how many meals could you get out of a single boar? Now, I've played Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, and I know you get a fuck ton of meat out of a boar. But is that accurate? How many meals could I be expected to get out of a single wild boar carcass? I don't know if carcass is the right word here, but we'll go with that. Depends on several factors, including the size, the processing skills, the portion size. That's true. A medium-sized wild boar around 150 pounds could provide enough meat for approximately 100 to 150 meals. Holy shit. Holy shit. Okay. So, 1 meal, 2 silver. Let's say... I mean, let's be somewhat reasonable. Well, we'll assume that, again, a meal is not just a portion of meat. It is, you know, there's something to go along with it. So I'm thinking like 0.75 silver per raw pound of meat, perhaps. I think that's reasonable. I don't think that's outrageous based on the price of a meal. Maybe it's a little high. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that. So 10 silver. So 1 silver is 10 copper. So I'm thinking, let's say 7 copper per pound of raw meat. All right. This is really, this is solo RPGing right here, man. But it's funny, this is exactly the type of conversation that I would have at a table with other people while playing. So let's bring up a calculator here. 7 copper. Now, yeah, so the boar was 150 pounds average. And it said enough meat for 100 to 150. I think it's probably more like 100, really. £100 of meat. And I'm going, yeah, we're just gonna go with 7 copper per pound of meat. So let's times that by 100. Obviously, 700 copper, which is 70 silver. Right there. I mean, that's already kind of worth it, to be honest. Snagging 70 silver per boar? A man could just retire on that. So, I don't know. That seems high. I need to, like, Google this. And someone out... D&D has been around for 50 years. Give or take. Someone out there has calculated the price of meat or something. So, like, D&D... Yeah, because you got to think the pelts, the teeth, the claws, the bones... Oh, they actually... Hold on. Did I forget that they actually have prices? Yeah, they have prices for animals. Shit. Okay. They have a price for a pig. 50 silver. Okay, so I definitely am on the higher end thing. I'm on the higher end of things. I think 25 silver then. Maybe total. Nah, maybe I can haggle them up to 30. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess. Is the butcher paying 50 silver for a hog? Where am I buying these hogs from based on this table? Presumably a farmer. So perhaps the butcher gets a better deal than 50. 50 is like the MSRP. So he's probably buying it for, you know, 30, 35. And that's a known source. He's got a supplier or something like that. So we're gonna go with 30 silver. I think we didn't need to go through all this trouble and we could have just looked there and made a decision. All right, so 30 silver per boar. Let's say... I mean... I'd have to find boars. I'd have to actually kill them without, like, them goring me in return. And then we'd have to haul the carcasses all the way back to town, depending on how far off this is. And I guess I'd have to decide, like, what is the likelihood of finding wild boars out there. But we could find wild goats. We could find a wild ox, wild sheep. I guess it kind of, like, how rare is any given, you know, mundane animal? Here's a random encounter table. Which gives, I mean, level 1 monster is a 15% chance. But I have to assume that this isn't a vacuum. Right? I mean, this is just in a vacuum. Surely there's some sort of weighting system. You know, there's weight to if I'm in a certain area where there's more likely to just be animals grazing. I'm less likely to find a level 7 monster than a level 1. Or a plot NPC or something. I don't know. I guess, again, you'd have to go back to if I was DMing for a group of people and they said, look, we want to go out into the fields outside of town and wander around the hills and stuff and try and find, like, pigs or goats or something like that. Me as a DM, I'd probably say, okay. I'm sure I'd do some sort of roll to, like, you know, maybe they bump into something. Maybe they bump into something different. All right. First of all, let's determine the weather for today. I think that's an important decision. I have not committed yet to hunting down wild boars. I just want to, but that's if the weather's looking solid, that might be what we do. And I don't remember where the weather table was. Shit. Now I have lost it. Wilderness travel. Okay, there we go. Let's roll. It's an 11. Clear skies. We're in spring. I've already decided. All right, so clear skies. I think we grab Donovan. We've got Patrick. We're going to head outside of town. And so now I bring to you my map. Oh, look at this. All right, so last night I used the wilderness generator here, wilderness map creation here in Heroes of Adventure, which basically involves taking a piece of paper and one of every type of dice and then just dropping it onto the paper. And you do that once, and that determines, like, the elevation for, like, hills and mountains. And then you do it again for rivers and lakes, and then you do it again for forests, and then you do it again for, like, points of interest and settlements and stuff. And, you know, you move some things around. Maybe you do a couple, like, re-rolls on a few things, and just some adjustments that kind of make sense. But I largely did just that system. And I sketched it all out on a piece of paper. Then I went into, and this is Incarnate, which is a, you know, digital map creator tool online. This is the free version, so there's not a whole lot of options as far as, like, icons and symbols and textures and stuff, but it gets the idea. So we are in the city of Guthwald. It's a port city in the southeast here of this peninsula or whatever. And it's the biggest city in this region, obviously. And at the very north end of this area is this horrific mountainous region called God's Teeth. And I don't have any information currently about God's Teeth. I'm sure my character knows something about it, but I haven't decided anything about what exactly is God's Teeth and what's beyond it. But there is a big fortress nearby called the Last Bastion. I know, it's very evocative. And so there's some sort of military organization that stands guard and protects this region from whatever is in God's teeth or beyond. And there's probably a lot of little outposts and stuff dotted near the perimeter of God's teeth. But Last Bastion is like the headquarters. There's a few other small settlements. There's Ox Hill right here to the north of Guthwald. There's Kingsthorpe to the northwest. And then on the other side of this big forest, there's Greenwald. And I know the text is really like blurry. Incarnate, if you don't pay money, you don't get the high resolution for maps. So unfortunately, I don't know why that applies to text exactly, but it does. So it's legible. So yeah, I was randomly rolling like features, and I got this. I had this big forest here, but then I got some sort of feature in the middle, and I randomly rolled, and I think I got like I'm trying to even remember the geography or something that I got. Oh, yeah, geography table. I got vast/deep, and then like old trails or a path. And I'm like, okay, it's a vast path in the middle of this forest. So I decided that there's just like this dark tunnel through the trees connecting these two settlements. So I called it the Tenebrous Tunnel. So that's, and probably people go missing all the time walking that path. I also got this sort of really craggy region here, which is kind of nestled in between a couple mountains and stuff. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to call it the Thunder Cliffs from like 13th Warrior. So it's a rough terrain. There's just a lot of like narrow gaps in these cliffs that you could just get stuck in or fall down or whatever. And I don't remember what they say in 13th Warrior about the Thunder Cliff. It's something about like the sound of wind or rain or something like water. It sounds like thunder. So yeah, I mean, if we ever get there, we'll decide that. Then I had a feature in the middle of this mountain range, like right towards the top of it, and it was something that was flooded. So I decided that there's flooded ruins up there at the top of the mountain range, like way high up, and it's called Basin Lake now. But perhaps there's treasure down there in those flooded ruins. And then there was a region here that I decided was filled with giant mushrooms. And I called it the Spores. And I'm basically picturing like Caelid or something like that, because there's an abandoned church in the middle of it. And so it was like, is it abandoned because of the mushrooms, or are the mushrooms because it was abandoned? I don't know. No, maybe nobody knows. And then I also have a shrine up here as well. And I just made up some random names of deities. So this is a shrine to Calibolg. And there's an abandoned church to Malix here. And that's a map of our region. I had Incarnate generate like the land masses for the entire world. So obviously this can all be expanded as if I travel west or by boat to any other area. But I figured this was a good enough start for adventure. And you could certainly have quite a bit of sessions just in this one region. I mean, you go into Basin Lake and go down there and you find a mega dungeon and you spend 80 sessions in there, like, who knows? Right. So, we need to head somewhere to find wild game. And honestly, I don't think we're gonna go far. I think, like, just sort of perusing around this region straight north of Guthwald. We don't want to get close to the Spores. Because then you're probably going to get, like, fungal meat. You're going to get fungal cows or something up there. Who knows what. Mutated animals. So we just want to stick pretty close to town, and we want to try and find something. Alright, so I'm going to do a random roll. And this is how I'm going to do it, because this is probably how I would do it if I was DMing for someone else. I'm going to roll a d20. If I roll 11 through 20, we're going to find some sort of just wild game, like mundane animals. If we roll a 1 through 10, I'm going to roll on this random encounter chart. And there is a chance that we might actually find just level 1 animal, monster, whatever. But it could open it up to anything. So chances are that we'll find some sort of game, but who knows? Here we go. 15. All right, there you go. So it's decided we're finding some sort of wild animal. How we decide which one I find, I don't know. What's really likely, I guess, is the question. I think boar is decently likely. I don't know exactly their, like, behavioral patterns, what sort of regions wild boars hang out in. I don't know if they're more in the woods. But I think even if you have a map like that with these giant forests, that does not mean that there are no trees anywhere else. So there's trees all over the place and little small patches of woods. But, what was I looking for? Right, monsters. Here, monsters. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time here. Let's just do like a D4. No, scratch that. D6. I'm gonna go 1 to 2 is boar. 3 to 4 is, oh, deer. Yeah, 3 to 4 is deer. 5 is... Oh, give me something else interesting. Some other... Come on. I just Google, like, wild game. Is there a moose or something? A moose would be kind of fun. Hyena, horse. Ooh, I guess I could hunt down a horse. That's... Because then that offers you the option of, just capturing it rather than killing it. There's no moose. Why? Yeah, I guess there's deer, and we could just bump up stats on a deer. I'm spending way too much time. But you know, that is the thought that I had. Is like solo RPGing is really much slower. I think you just spend a lot more time deliberating and just going at your own pace and not really... You're never in a rush to do anything. All right. I feel like this is weighted. Yeah, well, we're kind of doing a somewhat dangerous thing. We're heading out into the wilderness to try and find wild animals to kill. So it's going to be a little dangerous. 1 to 2 is boar. 3 to 4 is deer. 5 is a wolf or wolves. And 6 is bear. I got to throw the chance of finding a bear in there. If we're running around in the woods, it's an option. All right, so there's the options. We rolled a 1. All right, we probably could have just saved many minutes of time if I had just said, you know what, I'm gonna hunt boar, and I go and I find boar and I get some. But no, damn it, we must introduce randomness. There must be the possibility of horrific scenarios. All right, boar. So these appear in groups of 1d4. So if we find 1. Ugh. Okay. It's kind of odd that they would only appear... There would just be 1 lone boar wandering. Okay, but fine. We find 1 boar in a in the woods in like a small clearing. Oh, and he also has a hook. We should roll for the hook. He has been pursued by a hunter who wants their tusks as a prize. Oh shit! A complication. There's another hunter here. Okay, that is a twist. So now we need to decide how we are interjected into this scenario. We have the basic situation here. There's a boar. He's in a clearing, presumably not aware of a hunter. And there's a hunter who's coming after him. And I think obviously it's more interesting if the hunter is here and he's not just like somewhere else in the woods and we just kind of steal this and never meet him. So it's much more interesting if he's here and he's either about to like take a shot or he just is. I guess this is where we would go to like the fate table and just kind of roll a yes or no question or two. Okay, well, first let's roll. I want to roll on the reaction table to see how this guy feels about us just on approach. But I guess that sort of depends on, like, how we become aware of him or how he becomes aware of us. So I think the very first thing we should do is roll, like, our stealth. And that's sort of the issue, is that I'm stomping around the woods with Donovan and his longsword and Patrick, who's carrying, like, nails and a shovel and a bucket. I feel like we're probably not that stealthy of a group. So maybe I would not bring them with me? I mean, yeah, hunting isn't that's not how hunting is done. So I'm gonna decide, I guess retroactively now, that I left the two of them at kind of the entrance to this patch of woods. And, you know, if I get a kill, then I'll come back and get them. So we're just gonna roll my agility to see how well I stealth it up. Alright. I rolled a 20. I rolled a crit. Excellent. I am the stealthiest fucker to ever live. So, I can roll for this hunter to see if he sees me, but he would have to also, like, crit. And I don't think we'll even bother. I think we do not notice... He does not notice me. Then it's a matter of, do I see him before I take my shot? And in that case, let's roll his senses... No, his agility versus my senses. And we'll say this guy's not an idiot. So we're going to make him level 2. And we're going to give him a D4. So he's rolling a D20 plus D4 for his agility. He got a 15. He's pretty well hidden. I may not see him because I'm just rolling straight D20. I did not. Okay. So, he's tucked in the woods, I'm tucked in the woods, neither one of us are aware of the other. Yes, I definitely sense a conflict brewing. I think he's more likely to take a shot before I do. So here is where I might roll a yes or no. I think we're gonna roll d20 on the fate table. Does he take a shot before I do? And I'm gonna give it advantage because I think he was here before I was. So I'm gonna roll it twice. 18. Okay. So outcome reaction, yes, and some assistance or benefit. And some assistance or benefit. I think in that case, the assistance, as far as my character is concerned, something that benefits me, is that he doesn't kill it with his one shot. Because if he did, he would have full, rightful claim to it. I would have no argument. So I think in this case, he doesn't kill it. I'm not going to bother rolling for his shot or anything like that. I think we'll just sort of wound this this boar. So this boar has a total of 5 health. We're going to say that it's at 2 health. Now I need to decide if the boar would charge at him or sort of run away. I think most likely it would flee. In whatever direction it was facing, I assume. This is a lot of work just to get one boar worth 30 silver. I know, but that money will be very useful to us. So I'm going to say that it's sprinting, or it's running away, it's fleeing. There's probably a roll for that somewhere. I guess you could do a morale roll, or we could just do a fate table roll. I'm not sure the best way to adjudicate this. If I was DMing for a group of people, it would definitely be a roll. I wouldn't just decide. All right, let's just do another fate roll. Fuck it. Does the boar run away from where the shot came from? And we'll give this advantage as well, because I think it's more likely. All right, 19. Yes, and some assistance or benefit. Okay, then it runs towards me. Perfect. Simple, done. All right, so now it's running towards me. It does not see me. I'm very stealthy. But it's running towards me. So now I'm going to take a shot. I don't think that I'd get any... I mean, there is, like... I guess maybe I'd give myself, like, a +2 or something. But it is a moving target. But it is moving towards me. So it's not difficult. I think, just straight up, let's just roll. D20 plus D4 for my ranged combat. Call it a day. Here we go. And we got a 15, which is definitely enough to hit it. And my short bow is D6 damage, unless I roll a 1. I rolled a 5, so I shoot it right in the head, and it drops. Dead. All right. Now we, So now we have to decide how this other hunter reacts to my presence and the fact that I was the one that killed this hog. We're gonna go with the reaction table. I think we're gonna roll this with disadvantage. just because I think it's pretty unlikely that he's going to be like, oh, yes, friend, nice shot. The boar's all yours. Have a good day. I think that's pretty unlikely. So we're going to go old disadvantage on this one. And, you know, if I roll like a 1 or a 2 or something like that, this could come to be violent. All right, 5. Poor outcome. Defensive. This is mostly what I expected. So he is not my buddy. He is not my pal. So Garland, you know, he steps out of the woods from his hiding spot with a nice, you know, like he pumps his fists, like, yes! That's a clean kill, yes! This boar is mine! This other gentleman steps out. And I'm actually going to go over to a different game here. So this is Knave 2nd edition. This is one of the backer drafts, the latest one. And this document just has loads and loads and loads of these D100 tables. It's really nice. So let's come up with a nice name for this guy. 65 Neville. And Neville Evertooth is his name. Not that he says that, but now we know. And let's get his personality. He has perfect manners. That doesn't seem likely. Again, he's a nerd. Oh god, none of these make too much sense. All right, he's pious, so he's a religious man. That's fine. We may be able to sway him that way if he worships some sort of god of the hunt. It was my, you know, it was my kill. He failed. The gods did not want him to have that kill. And his trait, he is missing a finger. I don't know what. Maybe that's why he missed. Or he fucked up. One of the two. Okay. So Neville steps out from his hiding spot in the woods, which, you know, I did not see. Obviously, I knew he was there because I saw the arrow hit the boar. And he says, "Hail, stranger. It seems that we shared the same quarry." Garland replies, "Yes, seems so, but the quarry is mine." Neville says, "Be that as it may, 'twas my arrow that wounded the beast, and only yours that finished it." Garland replies, "You did wound the animal, sir, but my arrow was straight and true and would have killed it regardless." Neville says that well, I was here first, so I claim ownership of this corpse by that right. Garland scoffs. "There is no such right of ownership on a wild animal prior to its death, and its death was caused by me." The man is, Neville is upset, obviously. He's been tracking this thing. And, you know, he had been sitting there waiting, and then finally, you know, he has his one shot and he fucked it up, and he knows that. But he's not about to leave empty-handed. And it said that he really was only interested in the tusks. So he says to Garland, "Very well. I'll admit that you hold some claim to this corpse, but perhaps we could come to a deal. We both participated in the hunt. I am only interested in the boar's tusks. Let me have those, and you can have the rest." Now, Garland would prefer to get the whole corpse, of course. I mean, he came all the way out here and found one lousy boar. But he also is not interested in any sort of conflict with this man. Especially because he doesn't have his two companions with him. They're out at the entrance to the woods. So he doesn't really want to hurt this guy. He doesn't want to get anything. So, yeah, I mean, he might part with the tusks. Which are... I don't think the butcher would have bought the tusks. Well, I guess the butcher probably would have paid for the whole corpse. And then done whatever with the... I don't know what they do with the tusks. So, I think Garland's going to agree with that. Very well, sir. I'm mostly interested in the meat, so if you'll go ahead and remove the tusks right here while I supervise, we can both be on our merry way. And so the man does. I guess there are rules. I guess it's just kind of like automatic. Yeah, I guess it's just automatically done. Alright, I mean, that's fine with me. What do I care? So yeah, he gets the tusks. It's sort of probably a little gruesome, I would imagine. But Garland's a ranger. I'm sure he's been around wild dead animals and carved up things before. So Garland will tell the man that he's got some companions nearby outside of the forest, and they're going to help him carry this corpse back to Guthwald. So they decide to walk out of the woods together, you know, just to ensure that the guy doesn't come back. And obviously the guy is not that well equipped to carry a big boar carcass anyway, so obviously he only came for the tusk. And I think while we're walking back, we're going to chat a little bit. And I think he's going to share a rumor with Garland, because that's fun and interesting and cool. So let's roll on the rumor generator table. 4255. A component, conflict/peace, object equipment, complication, environment challenge. Okay. Environment challenge in this region definitely means the spores. I mean, that's got to be it. A component, conflict, peace, equipment. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Component. What the hell? Well, obviously, I think we're interested in some sort of magical treasure. That's always the most exciting rumor. So I'm gonna roll on a knave table here. There should be a table for treasure or something. Somewhere. Treasure. Although I guess like a pen wouldn't be very interesting. Now we can come up with something that's kind of exciting, can't we? Here you go. It's like an artifact generator. That might help. Crystal. Taken from an ancient vault. Organic. And it's cursed in some way. A cursed organic crystal. That doesn't make any sense. Well, I guess crystals are sort of organic, aren't they? Or are they precious? Are they a rock? What is a crystal? Taken from an ancient vault. Okay, okay. And if we came up with, say, object effects table, and we rolled on this, summoning or attracts. Okay. So, obviously, if it's in the spores, it's gonna probably summon mushrooms or some, or fungal growth or something like that. So the rumor is that the spores were caused by a gem that was kept in an ancient vault for millennia until a thief stole it, not knowing what it was. And that thief eventually sort of succumbed to the effects of this gem that he didn't understand. So he just became encased in fungus. And he died. And he and the gem were buried behind the church in the region now known as the Spores. And so that's the rumor anyways. You know, how much truth there is to all that. But supposedly, you know, there's a gem that can just create fungal growth. And, you know, if someone really untoward managed to get a hold of it, they could spread fungus across the globe. But thankfully, it's just an old rumor. All right, I'm gonna jot down some things here. Hunted a boar, met Neville. Received boar carcass. Heard rumor of ancient gem in the spores, capable of summoning fungus. All right, that's something. It's a wacky, randomly generated game. That's what we're doing. Okay, so we meet back up with Donovan and Patrick. We bid Neville a good day. He goes on his way back to his cabin, wherever, something like that, or maybe he lives in town. I don't know. And we go and we get the corpse. Now there is the matter of carrying it. I feel like it's kind of rude to expect Donovan to carry it. It's not really what he was hired for, so he probably won't even do it. Patrick was designed to carry shit, but he's sort of carrying a lot. But maybe he can carry it. You know, a game as light as Heroes of Adventure, it does not have rules for how much you can carry with a certain amount of strength and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't, as far as like weight is concerned, it doesn't have rules for that. So it's kind of just up to you to determine on the fly, or you'd have to look to a different game, something much more crunchy, and just see, you know, how much the average person can carry, how much someone with 12 strength can carry, so on and so forth. 150 pounds over the shoulder. I really have no frame of reference. I don't weightlift anything. I have no idea. Let's see. Could the average person carry a wild boar carcass over their shoulders? ChatGPT will tell us everything we need to know 100% accurately. Carrying larger boars would likely be beyond the capability of the average person due to their size and weight. Okay. Then I think we'd have to say that Patrick would not be able to handle it by himself. I should have bought a tarp or something. But we really have nothing that could handle this. We could drag it. Is that bad? That's probably bad, right? Okay, we have rope. We can get a stick. We'll just tie it to the stick and carry the stick on our shoulders between two of us. Done. I'm not even going to roll anything. That's just what happens. All right, so, you know, like some tribal members, we carry our boar corpse back into Guthwald. I feel like this is probably an uncommon situation. I doubt this happens too often. But we make it back in town. We head to a butcher. I don't know. I need the name of a butcher. Just give me like a surname or something. Surname. Oh, right. Hithersops. It's not the nicest butcher in town, perhaps, but someone that maybe Garland is familiar with. Maybe he's shopped there before or something like that. And so we go in, and now we need to haggle. Again, I feel like it's just a strange sight. I can't really picture a couple guys just carrying a boar corpse like this into a butcher shop. Maybe we take it around back. Maybe we. I don't want to upset Hithersop by marching in front of his customers with a big dead corpse. So we'll take it into the alley. We'll go around back. And I'll just leave Patrick and Donovan there in the back. I'll head out back to the front, go into the shop, and speak with Mr. Hithersop. And I need to decide if I have met this man before, personally. Like, I know his name. I doubt it. I doubt, like, I'm on a first-name basis with this guy. I'm just a customer that he's met before, you know. One of hundreds. Right. Mr. Hithersop. Good day. I am wondering if you're interested in purchasing a wild boar. The man sort of scratches his chin and says, well, I have in the past, I suppose. I don't normally do so. Obviously, I have some farmers that I routinely deal with. But if it's in good condition and looks healthy enough, I could be persuaded. Where is this boar? So I direct him to the back of the shop. He looks it over. I would assume... Well, I guess let's roll. We can't assume anything. So we're going to roll on the fate table. D20 with advantage. I don't know why... Well, it could have wandered near the spores. But I think it's likely that it's okay. 5 or a 6? The question I asked was it a healthy corpse? The answer is no, it's not. This seems like an abrupt... I feel like I would have noticed, but maybe not. I guess if it's internal. But then would he notice if it's not internal? I think what will rule then is that it's not healthy, but it's not visibly unhealthy. The only thing that he really can tell visibly is that it's missing its tusks. They were forcibly removed post-mortem recently. Probably, you know, blood or something. It's still there. And he will, of course, ask about that. And I'll say that another hunter who participated in the hunt laid claim to the tusks. Which, you know, is the truth, and it's certainly reasonable enough. So now we need to decide if he will purchase this. I'm going to roll on the fate table again with advantage, because I don't think that he will... but he doesn't know that it's unhealthy. That will, you know, affect us if we ever want to sell another boar to him. But this is the one. All right, 16. The answer is yes. All right. So he's going to buy it. Hithersop's a shrewd bastard, though. So he's going to offer me... let's say 22 silver for the corpse. For the carcass. I'll reply that that would be a fine number for a lesser, smaller boar than this, but this is a prime this is a prime example of the species. And I won't sell it for a hair less than 30. Now, 30 is probably... I think 30 is what I said he would pay from a farmer that he's known, whereas this is a wild animal that he hasn't, like, cut open yet. And probably, you know, I don't know if he even would buy it without cutting it open first. But we'll say that, you know, it looks good. We'll just say it looks good. So I'm going to go with a command roll here. And I'm going to go with disadvantage. Just because I think 30 is high, and it's unlikely that he would ever purchase that. So I'm going to go command with disadvantage. Well, I don't have to do disadvantage. I guess I could just set a high target. Yeah, I tend to overuse disadvantage and advantage. So we'll just roll command, and we'll set the target number at, say, 15. Our roll is a 7. So he kind of just scoffs and says, no, I'd never pay 30 for a wild boar. You know, even if the king himself brought it to me. 24. And not a copper more. I'll say, there's plenty of butchers in town. I'm sure any one of them would like this animal. 26. And I'm going to do another command roll at a DC of 10, because I think that's more likely. And we still got a 6. He'll say, well, then you'll have to take it to them, because I'm not paying a copper more than 25. To which I will nod my head and say, 25 it is. You have yourself a boar. Okay. The boar quest is done. Sold to Hithersops for 25 silver pieces. Fungal growth inside unbeknownst. So we're definitely never going to be able to sell a boar to him. Chances are he'll never buy wild animals from anyone unless he has to. And chances are he'll probably tell other, you know, word will get around to like the other butchers. Not publicly or anything, but maybe, you know, he'll chat with some other butchers and warn them. I assume like the butcher community of Guthwald is not that cutthroat. So he'd probably tell them to, like, you know, maybe you don't want to buy any wild animals anymore. I think the spores are kind of getting out there. So, unknowingly, we did kind of a bad thing. We cheated this man. But none of us knew from the outside. It was all interior. And so we're going to take our money. We're up to 35 silver pieces. Okay, so that gives us another couple days of leeway for Donovan and Patrick. We can keep them hired. Good. Oh, also I used arrows. I have to roll my usage die. Okay, we're fine. Okay, do we want to do another job that is more immediate, or do we want to work on Kurthorn? I think for Kurthorn, what we need to decide, and I deliberately avoided thinking about this since the last stream. I did not put any thought into like how I was going to delay this guy. But I think we do need to kind of decide pretty much one thing to start. Are we going to delay this guy, whatever exactly that entails, before he leaves Guthwald or after? And I think the best way to decide that is to decide where Staunton is, the capital. And based on the map, I think that most likely Staunton is on a different continent. It's on a different landmass, and he's traveling by boat. I think that makes the most sense. Guthwald does not seem to really be road accessible. Which then beggars the question of where exactly all this wheat is being grown that it matters. I guess there could be a lot of farm fields to the north of Guthwald, and instead of a cicada, it's the spores. Maybe the spores is a pretty recent development, and it's now really going to impact the growth of the crops to the north of Guthwald. Which means that not only is, like, the price of wheat elsewhere in trouble, because that implies that Guthwald here produces so much of it that they export it. So not only is the export in trouble, but also probably the people of Guthwald. They're going to maybe have to tighten their belts a little bit. Which really means that the spores is kind of a big issue. It's probably like the talk of the town. And eventually, like, you know, the Duke or whatever who runs Guthwald is going to have to hire somebody to deal with the spores somehow. And then we could get into maybe they have already tried. Maybe they've gone in there with, like, a crew to try and burn down the mushrooms or the spore, you know, something, but it's probably really dangerous. Like, you can't really breathe in there. There's just fungal spores everywhere. There's talk of mutations for those affected by the spores. And they really are not sure how to eliminate it because they don't know what the cause is. Hence the rumor of this, like, gem. This, you know, magic, basically, that is continuing to create more and more of this fungus. I think we have something there. That's a good enough plot line. I think with that in mind, I probably would have altered this map a little bit. Because I think most settlements in D&D or a fantasy RPG are all very self-sustaining. It's just like sustenance farming and everything around there. So having a settlement that has enough farms to where it exports crops, that has to be a pretty sizable region. But I think that's what we're going for. You know, logic be damned. That's what I'm deciding on. So I think probably this northern region up to, like, you know, near where the spores end here. That's probably all farmland. And then I think over on the other side of this bridge, this is probably also all farmland. And there might be a small village here between the river and the forest where all the farmers on this side live. And, well, not where they live, but where they kind of have a hub. And that hub is directly controlled by the government of Guthwald. And that brings up this other site that I just discovered today. So this is Wadabao's Procgen Arcana on Itch, I think. And so there's a bunch of just generators here for cities, for dungeons, for mansions. You can even do whole, like, regions. But you can very easily whip up just, like, a new village. If you just click village generator, boom, there's a village. And it's like, that's so good. It looks so good. So this is Sutfristead, population 170. Now this is sort of what I was talking about. Like, this is very much just like sustenance farming. These farms feed this village. And that's it. So the region that we're sort of talking about would be much more expansive with farms. They would be all over the place. So there's probably like a farmers guild or a farming guild or what's an agricultural guild in Guthwald that runs everything and manages, you know, crop growths and you know, all that sort of stuff. Okay. That's all well and good. Where was I? All right. We were deciding about Kurthorn. So, yeah, the spores are getting out of control. And this is a recent development. So Kurthorn probably makes somewhat regular trips to Guthwald to sort of oversee that year's crops. And, you know, how they're looking. Is it a good year? Is it a bad year? You know, and then brings news back to Staunton of how Guthwald's, you know, big intake of crops for that year is looking, how the exports are looking. But this year, of course, he has discovered that the spores are now going to be impacting at least a good chunk of the crops. So he's planning, say, I think tomorrow. We don't have a date. We're gonna say today's the 7th of whatever month, whatever fanciful month name you want to come up with. So he's planning to leave on the 8th. He'll get back in Staunton on the 12th. That's probably a pretty quick trip by boat, but whatever. And so as long as Kurthorn is not in Staunton on the 12th, Lord Bartholomew will pay us 500 silver. So, That gives us the option of either delaying him in Guthwald so that he does not get onto a boat tomorrow, or somehow delaying the boat so that it does not arrive in Staunton on the 12th. One of those two. And really, we only have to delay him like a day. That's pretty much it. You know, ideally a bit more. But, you know, really a day will do it. I don't know why Bartholomew has such a thin margin. Or just, you know, he just needs that little bit more time. But maybe he's sending out a boat today. That maybe makes the most sense. Like, he's just learned of the situation today. He's sending out a boat crew today, whereas Kurthorn's leaving tomorrow. So his boat needs to get there first. I don't know. That's fine. I think it's unreasonable for us to delay the boat. We couldn't do anything to, like, the specific boat that he's hired, because there's probably plenty of other boats that he would take. I don't think he owns the boat. That would be kind of pretty high-end for a merchant. So he's probably just renting a cabin on a boat that's heading to Staunton. And I would imagine there's a lot of boats between Guthwald and Staunton. Especially if it's like a 4-day trip. So he'll just get a different boat. Also, you know, I don't think we want to go with Kurthorn or sneak aboard his ship or do something and then sabotage it that way, because then we're kind of caught in whatever situation we create. So we want to stop him before he leaves, which means that we need to do it pretty much today or tonight. So then we come to the crux of the decision of how do we delay Kurthorn. Like I said, Bartholomew will not care if Kurthorn is dead, but I find that to be the least interesting choice. We could get him sick or something like that, but that I don't know if that would really stop him from getting on the boat. He'd have to be like deathly ill. Like, I can't be moved from this bed, sort of deathly ill. And we probably could talk to an alchemist and maybe have them supply us with something, but we'd have to pay for it. So we'd have to spend money, and we want to avoid that. I think, like, yeah, death or injury, I think, is pretty lame, and I don't want to do it. We could kidnap him and then just, like, keep him somewhere for a day, but that's a risky operation. Presumably, he does have bodyguards. He's got some entourage he travels with. I have to just imagine, I would guess. Someone obviously is going to very quickly notice that he's gone, even if we kidnap him without any witnesses. And then there'll be a bit of a search. And we'd have to kind of be very unnoticed. I also decided, I think I decided this last time and I didn't really say it, but I don't think that he has a home here in Guthwald. He visits like once or twice a year, so he stays just at a nice inn. You know, sort of an upscale inn, perhaps. So if we were going to kidnap him or something like that, we'd have to break into an upscale inn. And the three of us are not, we do not look upscale. We don't have any nice clothes or anything like that. And again, we don't want to spend any money. So, yeah, I mean, you're talking about like scaling the side of an upscale inn at night in a nice part of town. Tricky. So, I guess that's, well, I mean, that's a question. Is regardless of what we want to do, how do we get access to this guy? I've been rereading the Gentleman Bastard books, the Lies of Locke Lamora and stuff, and obviously I'm always inclined to do like some sort of con like that, where you're like, you put on a disguise and you just walk up to the target and start chatting with them, things like that. But we do not have the funds required, and they always kind of emphasize that in those books. Scott Lynch always kind of emphasizes that they spend a lot of money on disguises and props and other things necessary to pull off their cons. Like, you gotta spend some money to make money. And we don't want to spend any money. We could shut down... I mean, this is exactly something that I would do if someone was DMing for me. Just because it's ludicrous and exciting. But we could try and shut down the entire docks. Like, we have like a blockade. By bringing in fungus. And just like scattering some mushrooms and stuff like that around the area, and we just cause like a panic, and we shut down the docks, even if it's for a day while they kind of sort it out or something. But we have to assume that the government of Guthwald would not send out boats with the idea that they are carrying these spores or something like that straight to the capital. That would be a nightmare for them. So I like that idea just because it's just, yeah, that's sort of something that I would definitely do. That would probably has a lot of potential to get out of hand. So the question then is, do we actually get like actual mushroom spores or whatever from the spores, or do we just like grab some mushrooms somewhere and just like kind of leave them around? Like, how real do we want to make this situation? There's pros and cons for both sides, I think. The pro of getting just random mushrooms is that, one, they're not going to start, they're not going to spread any sort of fungal infection or growth across the town. And also, there's no risk to me, like, actually going into the spores and getting some of these dangerous mushrooms. The cons of that plan, though, are that probably many people will be able to just recognize that these are normal mushrooms and pose no danger, and that it's, like a harmless prank or something that someone pulled, and the docks don't get blockaded. The pro of getting spores and stuff from the spores is that the threat is real. The blockade will almost certainly occur, and mission accomplished. The cons, obviously, risk to ourselves, risk to the whole town, risk to everything. Yes, well. Yes. Let's double dip, however. If we're gonna go ahead into the spores, even, just on the edge of it, and we're going to go through the trouble of protecting ourselves somewhat and gathering spores, we may as well really make it worth our while. And I think we should find a sponsor. I think we should find an alchemist in town that is willing to hire us to go collect these mushrooms and these spores. And perhaps they will be able to provide us with some tools and equipment that will make this a little bit more reasonable. Specifically, I recall from the specialist equipment list, a plague doctor's mask. It says breathe for 1 turn / 10 minutes. I don't know what breathe means here, but I would guess that it will help protect us from the spores. So, we need to find us an alchemist in town that is willing to sponsor such activities. And I don't think we're gonna go to the most upscale place in town. You're talking about bringing this highly sort of virulent agent into a population center. So it's gonna be someone that's just kind of on the fringes of legalities. Again, there's probably rules somewhere for like finding certain elements in a settlement. But I think we're gonna hand wave some things and just kind of boil it down. Let's roll command. Just for kind of like, you know, maybe talking to... Perhaps Garland knows some members of the criminal element of Guthwald. You know? So maybe he can just chat around to see if there's any alchemists with a loose grasp on legalities. So let's roll a command. We'll set the DC at 10 here. Alright, we got an 8. So none of our buddies know of anyone that they would really trust, I guess. None of them have really dealt extensively with alchemists in their line of work. Mostly they just deal with, you know, pickpocketing and second story work, things like that. So I guess we're gonna just go into... I don't have a map of Guthwald. I probably should work on generating one or something like that, but let's... I said before, Garland lives in kind of a crummy part of town. I'll assume that there is an alchemist somewhere in that crummy part of town. As for a name for this alchemist shop, Bulgors, poultices and potions, I guess. And before we talk to him, let's just decide if he is amenable to such an arrangement as we're talking about. Just, you know, from a narrative standpoint. So I'm gonna roll D20 with advantage. I think he does. It's not likely he's a big fan of the law. 13. Yes, but some complication. What would be his complication for being less than legal? Let me think. I wanted to say, like, he's really paranoid. Or, you know, he's got, like, a screw loose or something like that, you know? Which I guess works. Paranoid alchemist in the slums. Alright, so Garland and the crew enter the shop. And Bulgor is there behind the counter, smashing some foul-smelling, paste in a mortar and pestle. And he sort of looks up with a startle. He's startled as we enter. He must not get that many customers. Yes, what do you want? Mr. Bulgor. I'd like to discuss an arrangement with you. An arrangement? Who sent you? No one sent me. I have just a business proposition that you may be interested in hearing. Let's roll on the reaction table, just to see how he's feeling about that specific statement, and how much we might have to butter him up. 19. He's very good outcome. Friendly. Okay. He likes the cut of our jib. Or, he's interested in making some money or something like that. All right. Tell me. Well, the spores have really become quite a problem. Yes? I'm wondering if you might be interested in studying some elements of that region. Yes, of course. The government is clamping down, trying to contain the spread. No one can get there. I guess we're establishing that the city is kind of cordoning off the region to try and, they're trying to do like controlled burns or something like that. They're trying to save as many crops as they can. So they're not going to allow random strangers just kind of wander in. Probably to prevent the exact sort of thing that I'm trying to do. Well, say someone could get a hold of some of these mushrooms or spores. Would you be interested? And Bulgor kind of raises an eyebrow and says, yes, I'd be quite interested. Would you be willing to provide some equipment to carry out that endeavor? And, yeah, I'm not even going to roll. I'm not going to do any rolls here. Bulgor is willing. So I think he's going to provide... He'll provide 2 Plague Doctor's masks, not 3. Just the 2. And then he'll provide... Yeah, I'm just gonna say he's gonna provide like some sort of glass canister that's like airtight. And so he wants us to collect some of the mushrooms and, ideally plenty of the spores in the air as well. And just collect them in this glass canister, keep it locked tight, and then bring it back here. And in return, he will pay us... Oh, boy. That's a good question. I mean, that's... How do you decide what a job is worth, Would he pay money? Would he pay in some sort of, like, ointments? Or elixirs? Would he pay in poison? Or, or would he just pay coin? I have to imagine he doesn't have that much coin. He lives in the slums. So probably he'll pay, let's say, 50 silver And then I'm gonna just say like 50 silver of credit if we want any of his products, you know. So like if we want I don't know, healing potion or, you know, something. Although a potion of healing is 250 silver. Jesus. Okay, well, I don't know what we can really get from him for 50 silver, but we'll come up with something. So 50 silver in coin, 50 silver in credit. That's what he's offering, which is it's practically nothing. But Garland does not want to upset this guy because he's borrowing us the Plague Doctor's masks and the canister. And this isn't even the real purpose of why we're getting this stuff. So, yes, Garland will just accept and takes the Plague Doctor's masks, takes the canister, and we go on our way. We're basically willing to, like, destroy this entire city for a total of, like, 550 silver. Hell yeah. Okay, so back to the map. We understand now that we've established that the city of Guthwald is kind of cordoning off the region known as the Spores now. They're at the perimeter. They're trying to burn everything they can to control it, but I mean, spores are airborne. They really cannot control. They can control the growth of like mushrooms, but spores are getting out. So I think that perimeter is just kind of on this western side. Because they figure, you know, nothing's really growing much out into the ocean, and that's not, they don't really care about that. So honestly, I think our best bet is to go along the coast and approach from the eastern side, where they don't have a perimeter. I think that makes the most sense. They're not gonna just perimeter the eastern side to make sure that no dumbasses wander into the spores from the ocean. So I think that's our best bet. But for that, we're gonna need a boat. And if we look at the boats, you have like a raft. That would be pretty rough. I think we want something to step up from a raft. I think we need a rowboat. Now, Bulgor does not have a rowboat. Why would he? There are rowboats out on the docks, unattended, tied up. But how to best steal a rowboat? It's a good question. I mean, there has to be unattended boats, right? It has to be a thing. No one's sitting there watching their boats forever. I guess maybe rowboat is kind of unlikely because this is a coastal, you know, city. And there's no, like, rivers running through the city. I don't know, I'm trying to decide if there would be just, like, rowboats. Obviously, the big boats will have rowboats, like, attached to the sides and stuff like that. But stealing one of those is going to be tricky. None of the big boats are ever going to be completely unattended and unwatched. I'd have to come up with quite the convincing lie to be able to just stroll aboard one of the big ships and claim a rowboat. I mean, I don't even know what I would say. What I would say. Let me write down plague, doctor, mask, glass canister, and Patrick has a plague doctor's mask. Okay, let's just assume there's rowboats. But man, if I steal a rowboat there at the southern coast, I have to row it all the way up the eastern coastline, like a while. I didn't put in a legend or anything for distances, but we have to imagine that that's not a short distance. That's going to take hours and hours of rowing. All right, I've changed my mind. I think that is a solid plan, but not a great one. A better plan is to use magic, baby. I can fucking fly. So I think we just hike back up north and we go to like here or something. I can fly for 20 minutes. So we need to walk like 10 minutes away from the spores. Then I fly in there, grab some mushrooms, fly back, call it a day. No one sees me. So I'm flying through the sky. And I think we need to do this at night. I think that's the way to go. I'll be wearing my plague doctor's mask, dude, at night, flying through the sky. No one will see me. So with that in mind, I don't really need Donovan or Patrick. I guess I'll take them with me, but, you know, just for company. And I paid them. So I'm paying them for their company. It's just a recurring theme. I haven't really relied on them much. Because I'm not going to just seek out combat. I think one of these sessions we're going to have to just go into a dungeon. Just to do that experience. Because there is a dungeon generator here. Which is pretty slick. It doesn't make perfect sense all the time. There's like sometimes some closed gaps, stuff like that. And not everything seems to make sense. But you know, it's very easy to just generate a layout. And we can ignore all the text and just have a layout and then just populate it with random stuff from generators. So we can pretty easily do a dungeon crawl if we want to. Anyways. What was I doing? Right, so that's the plan. I guess, I mean, we could do some other things. I don't know how much time we've spent. I really should take this map and come up with some sort of legend for distance. Like half an inch is a mile or something. I think, but how long is half an inch? I'd have to put in a legend or something. I wish Incarnate did that for you. But I don't know. It's probably only like 2 p.m. or something, if that. So we could go out on another hunt if we want, but and really, if we're gonna go out on a hunt for a wild animal to sell to a butcher, today would be the only day to do so. So I guess we could. All right, fuck it. Let's do the same thing again. We're gonna go out. We're gonna try and find a boar or something. So we're gonna do it the D20 roll. 11 through 20, we find a wild animal. All right, 18. So we find a wild animal. 1 to 2 is a boar. 3 to 4 is deer. 5 is wolves. 6 is a bear. 1. It's a boar again. D4. How many? 1. We find. What are the odds of that? Jesus. Okay, we find 1 lone boar again. I'm just gonna rinse and repeat. I'm gonna leave Donovan and Patrick at the entrance of the woods. Let's see how well I sneak through with my agility. Well, that was 40-20. Alright, I got a 16. He rolls a nothing. Okay. He rolled a 7, so I sneak up on the boar. Now I'm gonna roll to hit. Why did I roll to get a hunter last time? Oh, for the hook. That's right. Okay, let's roll the hook again. 4. Driven mad and rampaging through the forest. Okay. I still have rolled my stealth, so he doesn't notice me, but he is, like, mad. He's not thinking clearly, which means that basically if I don't one-shot him, I think it's pretty clear he's going to charge at me. So let's, fingers crossed, that I shoot him. Now, again, we kind of have to bring up the idea of sneak attack. If we go to classes, there is a very specific sneak attack ability. On a surprise attack, roll with advantage and damage is doubled. Now that's very good. Your damage is doubled and you roll with advantage on your attack. That's a very good ability that I would love to have. Maybe I should use a Totem of Prowess on myself first. That'd be good. So there's no other rules, I don't think, for... you know, like, sneaking and attacking. But at the same time, in this situation, I don't know what bonus I would really have. He's like moving, he's rampaging through the forest. He's a somewhat small moving target. Yes, I mean, I can kind of sit there and sort of line up my shot, but I don't know if I'd give much advantage. Let's go numerical with it. How about that? I'm gonna give myself a +2 to my roll. I don't think by the book this game almost ever gives out any numerical bonuses or negatives. They tend to avoid that in lieu of just advantage or disadvantage. And another game that I'm interested in, I'm going to DM for people, is Knave First Edition, which also has advantage and disadvantage, where you roll twice. But Knave Second Edition changes that out for +5 or -5, rather than 2 dice rolls. I am not sure how that goes at the table, whether that's a better or worse change, but yeah, a lot of RPGs sort of shy away now from just numerical bonuses because it just gets out of hand and annoying. But in this case, I'm going to go with a +2. So this is a d20 plus d4 plus 2. That is a 17 total. And his defense was like 10? Yeah, 10. So we definitely hit. Damage is now just d6. 1 damage. Shit. Okay. So he has 4 health left. And he also has the charge ability where he can move 2 range bands and attack at advantage as a single action. Christ. So the range bands, you know, melee range is like 0 to 5 feet or so. Short is, you know, 5 to 10 to 30 feet. Medium, 30 to 60 feet. Intermediate, 60 to 90 feet. Long, 90 to 120 feet. My short bow is long range. I doubt I made it all the way out to long range. I think commonly for OSR, they say for encounter distance at the start is like 2d6 times 10 feet. So let's go with that. 60. All right, 60 feet away. So I was pretty close, which means that he absolutely can charge my ass. So now we're gonna roll initiative. I roll d20 plus d6. He rolls a straight d20. All right, I got 22. He got a 5. I go first. I'm gonna roll another shot. Hope for the best. I don't get my +2 anymore. I got 11, just enough. Thank goodness. Roll my d6, 5 damage. Boom. Okay, that could have been bad. Attacking me with advantage. I mean, he only had a d4 for tusks, but then I would have been in melee range with him, and it could have. Yeah, I mean, it would have been great. But we got him. We got the bastard. All right. No other complications except that he's mad. He was rampaging mindlessly. I wonder why that is. I'm gonna roll a fate die to see if he is visibly, like, mutated or fungused in some way. I have no doubt that internally he's fucked up. But is it visible? And I'm just gonna do a straight d20, no advantage or disadvantage. 10. Interruption or change to circumstances. Now, what they have advised, I've read, when that result comes up, is that the original question you asked should now be irrelevant. Like, something changes the entire situation so that the question you asked the table no longer matters or is no longer relevant or no longer applies. So how do we change the situation so that my question of is it visibly fungused no longer relevant? We could have it just, like, explode with fungus. I guess that... I don't want that to happen. That's horrible. That's very bad for me. But that would be what could happen. And honestly, I think if I were DMing for a group, that's probably what I would do. If this came up and I was just, you know, and I left it to chance. Because they had the opportunity, the players, to basically discover that that first boar was in fact infected. They didn't, but they could have learned that it was infected. They could also put 2 and 2 together and figure that there are spores in the air, and there's a rampaging boar. You know, this thing probably is infected, but they killed it anyway, and they're kind of approaching it anyways. So I think this was an avoidable situation. So yes, I'm going to decide that the corpse of this boar, as I approach, suddenly starts, like, ballooning. Like, it just starts expanding with, like, gas internally. And then the side of its skin just ruptures. And a big burst of spores pops out. That's pretty bad, because this is definitely closer to Guthwald than the spores was. So this is getting out of control pretty quickly. When I put the spores down on the map, I didn't expect it to be. I thought it was there for like years and it was just like a part of the terrain. But no, this is now a very rapid development. But that's the exciting thing about just kind of developing a story as you play. You never know. I think that I probably would have time to put on my Plague Doctor's mask. I think if I didn't have that, I would just have to run and be done with it. But I think I would have time to put it on. And I don't know exactly how it's like activated or how it works for 10 minutes. We could probably come up with some ruling that like there's some like sort of a component in the nose of it that you like crack open or something. I don't know. I mean, normally a Plague Doctor's mask did not allow them to just breathe like anomalously for 10 minutes. It just like contained nice smelling things, so they didn't have to smell death and shit. But this is obviously, you know, a fantasy world. So some component of this, alchemical or something, provides me oxygen in a closed environment. Alright, so I activate the Plague Doctor's mask. Now, I do have 2 of those masks, but we're using up one now. And there are spores right here. And I'm carrying the canister, so I'm just going to collect some spores. I kind of doubt there would actually be like mushrooms growing inside of him. I think it would just be gas and spores and stuff. So it's not quite what the alchemist wanted. He wanted mushrooms as well, but he's gonna get spores. Now I don't really want these spores on my skin or anything. I don't know if I can avoid that. We'll have to just, you know, jump in a river or something. I'm cognizant that I am bearing spores on my clothes and skin right now. Okay, so we have a glass canister. I'm gonna write down that it contains spores. And, I'm also going to mark that this has been used. Now, what to do with this corpse? Do we just take the corpse of this boar and, like, dump it on the docks? Do I just fly through the air and just drop it? That seems horrible. I think the reality of what I'm doing here is kind of setting in that I'm talking about just infecting this entire city. Oh, that's not great. The logistics as well of handling this boar, which does contain fungal growths inside of it. My Plague Doctor's mask only lasts for 10 minutes. I think I'm further than 10 minutes away from town. I don't know exact, but let's say, you know, half an hour hike that we took. So even with both Plague Doctor's masks, I wouldn't be able to get it there. I don't know my flight speed, but I think my flight speed is just my movement speed. So it would take 30 minutes to fly back, pretty much. If we had some sort of container... But I would need an airtight container for this boar. We could go and, like, steal a coffin, but that's not airtight. No, the airtight is pretty rare in fantasy, I think. This glass canister is probably, kind of a unique alchemical thing that they have, and that's as large as it gets. I don't know if I can do anything with this boar carcass. Okay, maybe... Okay. Its side burst open, right? So there's an open cavity here. There's probably fungal growth on its, like, innards, I would assume. So I'm gonna try and, like, cut off some chunks of this, like, fungused meat and put it in the glass canister as well with the spores. And we'll just, like, leave some of this meat around somewhere visible on the docks. That's what we're gonna do. I don't know how I'm gonna do this without getting infected myself. But at the same time, I don't know if it would be insanely uncommon for someone to be walking around the town in a situation like this with a plague doctor's mask on. I mean, even without the spores, plague doctor's masks were used. They're an item in the game. They exist. People use them. It's just probably even more common now. So I'm gonna go back to Donovan and Patrick. I'm not sure what I'm gonna tell them. I'm not gonna tell them shit. They don't need to really be involved in this. I'm just gonna say I didn't get a boar, and we don't need to go to the spores or anything like that. We're just gonna move on. It's very fishy, but that's all I say. I need to delay the boats for a day. So when best to plant this meat? It needs to be found. So I don't know if I want to do it at night. Maybe late night. Like just before dawn or something. And then they'll find it in the morning and shut everything down. That's probably the best time. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. So I think that's gonna be it for the day. And I'm gonna go to bed. And then I'm gonna go to bed early, real early. It was a busy day. I'm going to bed early. I'm not even gonna go to the alchemist yet. I'm gonna wait on the alchemist. Because I don't want to show him the meat. Because he'll want the meat. He doesn't get the meat. The meat is for the public. Okay. So I'm gonna go to bed early and get up early. Before dawn. Like 4 a.m. or something. I'm gonna subtract the 15 from my money. Even if I don't pay him just yet, I just want to make sure that that's counted. So I pay 10 more to Donovan, 5 more to Patrick. And then early morning, I'm going to take back the other Plague Doctor mask from Patrick. And I'm going to put that on. I'm not going to use it just yet. And then I'm going to just sort of walk around the docks area. And probably town is real quiet. But I would assume I'm just kind of, accepted as just kind of a doctor or physician of some sort, an alchemist or apothecary, I'm sure they're around. I'm not doing anything illegal by walking around at 4 a.m. I wouldn't think, right? And, yeah, so I'm going to make my way down to the docks. And I don't want to go on a boat. I don't need to go on a boat or anything like that. I just need to find like some crates that are on the docks, you know, on like a pier. And then, while no one is looking, just quickly pop open the canister. I'm probably going to lose some spores to the air in the process. I'm hoping that's not a big deal. I do activate my Plagues Doctor Mask, the second one, before that happens. I can't actually carry everything, so I probably gave Patrick the used Plague Doctor's Mask. That's fine. And now I need to quickly, but surreptitiously, pop out the meat and just put it onto this crate. Which shouldn't be too tough. It's dark. I mean, it's pre-dawn. Or maybe, you know, it's just about to be dawn. So it's pretty dark. I'm going to roll an agility with advantage. I really can't imagine someone would spot me. But I could fuck up this roll monumentally. I'll set the DC at 5. I'll set the DC at 5. I'm being very generous to myself. Alright, I'd have to really fuck up. Okay, a 2 and a 5, so that's a 7. I already passed with that. A 1, a 2! Oh my god! What the fuck? Okay. That's dice rolls, man. I laid it all out, you know, and I still fucked up. So how do I fuck up? I mean, there's a critical failure. This has to be really bad. This has to be really, like, implicative and just horrible. So I think we need to do the most, like, obvious, horrible way that I could be caught. Pretty much, like, I'm holding, like, in a gloved hand, I'm holding a slab of, like, fungal meat. About to place it onto a crate. There's, like, a small cloud of visible spores glinting in some sort of light around me, and then I drop the canister and it rolls towards like a guard, and the canister contains another little slab of fungal meat and more spores. Canister is closed because I was trying to do it real quick and I closed it when I grabbed each piece, but I dropped it after I closed it, and that's the situation. So freaking comical, man. Oh no, wait, I rolled advantage, didn't I? I thought I was rolling disadvantage. I shouldn't have even fucked up then. I actually succeeded. But you know what? I think this is more interesting, so I'm gonna just roll with it. I'm just gonna roll with it. It's funny. All right. We just kind of stare at each other. Like I said, I don't think there's any doubt here that I'm in a Plague Doctor's mask, carrying like clearly shroom, fungal, spore meat and stuff. So I think I'm gonna just drop the meat like onto the crate, just toss it there. And then I'm going to use the Totem of Flight. So I need a magic of 10 for this to work. Okay, we definitely got it. 18. Alright, and then I'm just going to fly off into the night like some plague fairy. I mean, on the plus side, my face was not visible. I was wearing the mask. And I think I definitely will have accomplished my goal. They're going to shut down the entire... Because there's no doubt now. A guard witnessed a man in a plague doctor's mask, in a plague mask, handling spore meat. And they recovered from the scene a canister containing spores and fungal meat. I mean, this is as clear as you can get. And on the plus side, they found it like immediately. So even though they probably will shut everything down for at least a day or two, to make sure there's no other stuff going on, and they're going to cordon off the whole area, you know, really try and contain the situation. But I think they'll find the actual danger like immediately. It's sitting right there. So there shouldn't actually be that much of a spread of contagions or whatever. So honestly, it's kind of a best case scenario. The only downside is I'm not going to get payment from the alchemist, and I really can't go back to that alchemist. I can return the plague doctor's masks, but honestly, that shit's just getting dumped in the ocean like ASAP. I cannot be seen carrying, like, anybody that's carrying a plague doctor's mask, they're in trouble. They're gonna get arrested and questioned and all that. So that shit's getting immediately dumped in the ocean. I lost the glass canister, so I really have nothing to bring back to the alchemist. Which those plague doctor's masks are 100 silver each. They're not cheap. I very quickly blew through 2 of them just to get 500 silver. So there you go. So I fly off into the night. I dump my plague doctor's mask. You know, get the other one from Patrick. Dump that one as well. And that's it. So I think I can erase this stuff now. Okay. Let's write down this in our notebook. Recovered spores and fungal meat from infected boar in forest. Brought to docks in canister. Dropped canister. And fled. Results equal... I mean, we could make some rolls to really decide, but again, if I was just DMing, I wouldn't need to roll to decide how this happened. It would be pretty much what I said, I think. We could make some sort of roll to see if they, like, overreact. And we could do that. Let's roll on the reaction table, actually. And I think let's just roll straight D20. One, you know, if we get a 20, it's like, it's the best case scenario for us, which is they shut down the docks for like 1 day. They determined that there really wasn't a threat, there wasn't a problem, but they were just being, you know, kind of cautious, but all is well. And, you know, a couple days later, the boats keep moving. But if we get a 1, they really overreact. They shut down everything. They start, like, burning stuff. You know, no one's allowed to leave the city ever at all for the next, like, month. You know, it's like a complete quarantine of the entire city. And the capital starts sending over, like, guards and special... Like, it really gets out of hand. So let's do that. Roll a d20. 2! Okay, pretty close to what I just described then. They definitely take this very seriously, and there will be a quarantine. All right, and we'll determine the specifics of that next time. But I'm gonna bring it to a close here for today. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how enjoyable this is to, like, listen to or to watch or anything like that. Probably more listen to. It's not a very visual sort of medium. But yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. It's honestly like a really nice sort of training mechanism for DMing. Most of what I'm doing here is kind of DMing, but I also somewhat get the enjoyment of playing. I'm doing things as part of this story like I would be doing if I was a player in someone else's campaign. And I don't know what's going to happen. Because I am rolling for things. If I was a DM, and I might be doing this more in the future now, just due to it being kind of exciting, but if I were DMing this campaign for a group of people and this situation came about, I probably wouldn't have rolled to determine the outcome and the response from the city and the government. I probably would have just made a determination. But here, like, I don't really know. That roll could have been anything. And this campaign would go in different directions based on that one roll. I think that's very exciting. So, yeah, I think a lot of people will probably knock solo RPGing. I mentioned to some of my friends that I was like doing solo RPGs, and they sent that GIF of Milhouse playing frisbee with himself. Which, yeah, sort of. I think it's a little bit more exciting and interesting than that. But yeah, it's just kind of a cool experience. I really like Heroes of Adventure. I actually paid for a publishing company, one of those self-publishing. It was Lulu, so I paid them like $25, and they're gonna print out a hardcover book of the rules compendium. So I should get that in a couple weeks. And it was really cheap. It was only $25 with shipping. But I really like this system, and yeah, I think it's going to be kind of a fun little game we've got going on here. Like I said, when I just put the spores on the map, I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was just kind of this, the spores have been there for 50 years, but that's kind of how DMing is. You're never really sure how things will develop once you get into the game and start playing. Yeah, cool stuff. All right, so I mean, hopefully I'm gonna do this about once a week, every Thursday, for a couple hours or so, and hopefully we can get some audience members involved, so it's not quite entirely solo. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. So, my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging. And I'll see you fine folks next time.